out to Mike Tyson and his family. His 4-year-old daughter died yesterday, a tragic accident. A little girl was strangled while playing on a treadmill. It's sad to hear about this. Mike Tyson's had, such an up and down life, and it seemed like he was trying to get his life together. Just last month, Mike Tyson talked to MTV and told them how important his family had become to him.
I would like to rekindle that relationship. In the next 2 years or so, I'm just gonna, possibly I'm gonna make some money, substantial money and a great deal of recognition. And I would give all that up if it caused me losing what I have now in that little condo with my girlfriend and my daughter and having a relationship with the rest of my kids. If that's gonna allow me to just say them again like I once did, I don't want this.
Sounds the cursing there. It sounded like a different Mike Tyson, and he's fascinated us. Let's face it. We remember him as the young, up-and-coming champion. The trouble he's gotten into, and now the tragedy that strikes he and his family. Joining us now to talk about this, Nick Charles, boxing commentator for Showtime Sports. Nick, friend of mine, one of the best in the business and a boxing expert. And Nick, you go back with Mike Tyson to the early days when he was Iron Mike, the baddest man on the planet. As you've watched him over the last couple of years, has he tried to change and become a new man?
Mike, I've sensed a relief in him for not having to be the baddest man on the planet anymore, because the one current that runs through him is this self-loathing, and he's always battled it all his life. I've known him only since he was 19, so it's been over 20 years now. And I think that it's been an internal struggle that's consumed him, and I'm not apologizing. I don't want to say that society's dealt him a tough hand. But actions have consequences, and he's had so much destructive behavior. But I really believe it's this low self-esteem. Mike, we've been around a lot of famous people. He has the worst self-esteem of any person I know. And I think that in the years since he gave it up and since he stopped boxing, and he went out in such a terrible way, beaten by such a club fighter, I feel that while he has this sense, the art of living the rest of his life is a real challenge, because there's nobody around shouting how great you are anymore. And I think he's still battling. He doesn't want to be humiliated like he was as a child. I'm not a psychoanalyst, but I have talked to him about these things. The early days, I mean, he had a horrible upbringing. A lot of people have. His mother basically was an alcoholic and a prostitute. His father was non-existent. He lived in the Catskills, and he was saved by a guy with a very strong sense of family, who lived with a woman who was just this ironclad fixture as a maternal fixture. So he had a lot of things going for him in some senses. But I think the damage was done earlier, and I think it's been a battle that we talk about in boxing all the time, Mike. Is he going to make it? And now this thing. Look, anybody who has kids, you know the world could be the worst place in the world, but your kids are going to give you joy. And Tyson felt that way. He was around his kids more. I saw him 2-3 times a year recently, and he wanted to try to be a good father. A lot to overcome, because I don't think he knew how to do it. He was a non-custodial parent, but he was making the effort, and I'm just very, very sad about today.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking, Nick. And when we talk about him, and I mean, a tragedy like this could devastate anybody. But someone like a Mike Tyson, do you see him as someone who is more fragile in a case like this?
Well, yes, it's a good point. First of all, I think, well, he has 6 children, and I'm not saying he's the ideal father. He's not, and because he's not there all the time. What is an ideal dad? I think an ideal parent is somebody where your children know they can count on you, and his children know they can't really count on Mike all the time. But at the same time, yes, given the demons that he's been chasing and the way he feels about himself, yeah, this is a real body blow for him. And look, any person who I don't claim to know, I lost a brother, I saw my mother, and everybody told me if you lose a child, there's nothing that comes close to that. And so obviously, as you said at the beginning so well, Mike, our hearts absolutely go out to him. All the stuff aside, all the junk, all the destructive behavior, the prison, going broke, wasting his abilities, none of that matters today. It's like, how is he going to live tomorrow?
Yeah. Nick, let's take a phone call. We got some folks wanting to chime in. Laura in Michigan. Hi, Laura. Your thoughts here?
Yes, I am here.
Go ahead, Laura.
My name is Laura, and I'm from Michigan, and I'd like to send my condolences out to Mike Tyson. There's been times intolerant relationship he's went through. But out of the midst of it all, God has been on his side. He's become a stronger person, even before this event happened. And through this and everything, everyone in the whole wide world should learn a lesson. That through it all, he's a good person. And he has children just like everybody else. And you know what? I love you, Mike. And if you ever need anybody to talk to, I'm Laura and I'm from Michigan.
Okay, Laura, thanks for the call there. Nick, when did we... It seemed like there was a point when he stopped being Iron Mike. Even at the end of his boxing career, he wasn't that same fearsome guy that we came to know in the early days.
Yeah, I think it changed. I was in Tokyo working for CNN for the Tyson Douglas fight and his first loss. I think that started to change him. And prison, of course, did. And he lost that edge, and he lost that cloak of invincibility because he was the classic bully. And when Holyfield beat him in '96 the first time, and then, of course, that ear biting in '97, that changed him. He was no longer the bully. But I always felt there was this humiliation. He almost wanted to pain himself. And I think that's the thing he goes through every day. It's just this love-hate thing. Yeah. And he told me so many times.
Nick, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back more with Nick Charles and more on the Mike Tyson tragedy, and we'll take your calls as well. Stay with us.